न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिर्न तेजो न वायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न च प्राणसंज्ञो न वै पञ्चवायु न वा सप्तधातु न वा पञ्चकोश न वाक्पाणिपादं न चोपस्थपायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मे द्वेषरागो न मे लोभमोहो मदोर्नैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थं न वेदा न यज्ञ अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मृत्युर्न शङ्का न मे जातिभेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धो न मित्रं गुरुर्नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् अहं निर्विकल्पः निर्विकल्पो निराकाररूपो विभूत्वाच्च सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणां न च सङ्गतं नैव मुक्तिर्न मेया चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्.
Good morning to our global Satsanga audience, and good morning to everyone here at Lake Nona Performance Center and the Chopra Mind Body Zone. Today, by the way, is the official launching and the first day of the Chopra Mind Body Zone, and thank you to all our members for being here in full force. And it's very auspicious that we're doing the Sangha today from Lake Nona Human Performance Center and the Chopra Global Mind Body Zone. So very grateful to everyone. Every week we try and pick a theme, and I thought very auspiciously we'll choose the theme of the visionary response, because we're here to create a vision for the world, and that vision has existed for now 40 years, and that is to reach at least 1 billion people in the world for personal and social transformation, so we can move collective consciousness in the direction of a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world. Or what's the point of life? Right now, the world doesn't look very peaceful or just or sustainable. I think we'll all agree. So we have to bring in the light of awareness. So what I'd like to do today, at the cost of a little bit of repetition, is share with you how we can understand modes of consciousness and modes of awareness as dictating our experience of what we call reality. So the hymn you heard just now, and by the way, the translation of the hymn is there. If you go online, you'll be able to read the translation of the hymn. We play that at the beginning of every satsang, and then we play it at the end of every satsang. So we'll be playing it again. But that's a hymn from Shankaracharya, who was probably the most important exponent of what we call non-dualism, that the world, the universe, is a projection of consciousness, but it projects differently in different states of consciousness. And not only that, the only fundamental reality is pure consciousness. So in that hymn that you heard, frequently you hear the phrase Shivoham, which means I am pure consciousness. Okay, so I am pure consciousness. That's the original meaning of Shivoham. Shiva is pure consciousness. And pure consciousness is non-symbolic, which means it is without experience. It's the prelude to all experience. Pure consciousness is infinite. It doesn't have a form. Otherwise, you'd be able to see it, but you can't see consciousness because it's doing the seeing. Right now, you as a conscious being are doing the seeing, but you yourself are invisible. And you is not somebody inside your body. There's no little Deepak here inside the body, or no little Kiran somewhere there inside the brain looking out the world, because the real you is consciousness looking at the mind, the body, and the world at the same time. So your mind is in consciousness, your body is in consciousness, and the whole universe is in consciousness. And that consciousness by itself is non-symbolic, which means it doesn't have any symbols like images, feelings, thoughts, sensations, perception. So what is it? Well, it has no form. Having no form, no boundary, it is infinite, right? Because anything that has a form, a boundary, is not infinite. Even the Milky Way galaxy, you say, okay, what's the outer limit of the galaxy? 47 billion light years away is the boundary as we know it. Okay. So it has a, if something is, then it doesn't have a boundary. Okay, so that's infinite. So pure consciousness is infinite as possibilities, infinite potential, the immeasurable potential of all that was, all that is, all that will ever be. That's number one. Number two, pure consciousness correlates everything with everything in the entire universe. Today we call that entanglement, or entanglement at the level of particles, but also entanglement at the level of experiences. Right now, we are entangled at the level of experience, not only just here, but globally. If somebody has the right URL, they're entangled. But actually, if they don't have the right URL, they're also entangled because they're part of the formless domain. Not so entangled, but entangled nevertheless. So that's number two, infinite correlation. First is infinite possibilities. Third is infinite creativity. It comes from there. Our creativity doesn't come from the mind, it comes from our awareness. Fourth is infinite unpredictability, which people don't like to hear. But without unpredictability, you're an algorithm, you're a biological robot. So, because you have unpredictability, you also have creativity. And finally, it's the source of attention and intention. But there are many other qualities of pure consciousness that we can't go into. So that hymn, he says, I am pure consciousness. Everything else is a symbolic representation. Mother, father, me, other, body, mind, Milky Way galaxy, name it, anything you can name is a symbolic representation. And the symbolic representation appears as the manifest experience of the world depending on our state of awareness. Now, in the yogic tradition, we are in a room with all yogis, and yoga means connecting with the source. The word yoga, yuj, means connecting with the source. So, in the yogic tradition, you've all heard of the seven chakras, right? First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. Now, I'm going to phrase that a little differently today and only address one of them. I'm going to use biological expressions. So let's think of the first chakra as that which is responsible for survival, security, and safety. And it also creates in our biology a response called the fight or flight response. In a threatening situation, we fight or we run. The second chakra indicates the ego response, usually, which is we try and manipulate situations through either being very nice but manipulative, or being nasty and manipulative, or being stubborn and manipulative, or playing the victim. Those are the ego's responses. And 99.99% of human behavior gets stuck in these first two chakras. The third response is the restful awareness response, which we experience when the mind goes still in meditation. Okay. So now we are settling down beyond the ego identity and beyond survival. Restful awareness. If you just sit, do nothing, and sit and observe your breath, practice your mantra, there you are. Or if you just, as you're listening to me, just be aware of that which is listening. Try it right now. So, listening to me, just be aware of the listener. You feel a still presence. So, that's the restful awareness response. If you ask yourself a question before you go into meditation or before you go into deep sleep, in the morning you'll get some downloads. I do that every day. And you'll get, that's how I write my books, by the way. I ask questions. In the morning, I get the downloads. That's called the intuitive response. You ask the question in stillness, and then you let it go. Okay, so what is intuition? It's a non-linear, contextual, relational, holistic knowing. It's actually much more accurate than rational thought, because it takes context into account, meaning into account, purpose into account, relationships. What's the story behind the scenes? There's a story here that's obvious. Deepak is sitting here doing a satsang. You are sitting here listening. This is the yoga room. But there's another story. You have your own story of why you're here. I have my own story of why I'm here. And there's a larger context to this. So we are eavesdropping on a bigger story when we go into the intuitive response. So that would be the fifth response, right? No, that would be the fourth response. Fifth response is what we're going to talk about today, the visionary or the archetypal response. This is the fastest way to manifest whatever you want to on a big level. Okay? So, all the great accomplishments in the world, everything that's happened in the world which is significant comes from this level, visionary response or the archetypal response. That's what we're going to talk about today. And then beyond the visionary response is what we call the sacred response. You don't do anything. Your presence is enough to heal the world. So when we think of people like, Buddha or Jesus or, the great avatars, they gave good lectures, but actually their presence was enough. So this is what Patanjali, the greatest teacher of yoga, says: when you're perfectly established in your own presence, you don't have to do anything. All beings around you cease to feel hostility. Healing occurs because you have transcended all identities and become one with the universe. Okay? So we're talking about the sixth response. Traditionally, the third eye, the eye of inner vision, is actually the bindu point from where everything emerges, the whole universe emerges. And so this is the chakra for the sacred response, but as we see, the archetypal responses can be located in different parts of our body. Okay. And we'll talk about them later. I'll give you some hints. So let me summarize what the visionary response is. The visionary response is archetypal. It represents a symbolic it is a symbolic representation of the infinite. Because the infinite is formless, we can't see it. So in our minds, we create a symbol, a god, a goddess, a deva, a deity, or a demon. We'll look at all these different mythologies. You have angels, but then you have fallen angels. The fallen angels are also enlightened. They're just forgotten that they're angels. Okay, so in the Buddhist traditions, they say the divine and diabolical beings, but they're all enlightened beings. They're just playing in the universe because the universe is a play, lila. We call it lila. And when we forget that, then we go into the veil of ignorance, which is the play also of a goddess called Maya, so we can enjoy this world. Okay, so this is what archetypes do. They are symbols of higher consciousness, gods, goddesses, deities, but symbols of your own self, because at the deepest level, you are pure consciousness. That's what the hymn was saying. I am Shiva. Okay, and everything else is a manifestation. And that manifestation is in the form of vibrations, and we call those vibrations Shakti. Shakti is the divine feminine that allows Shiva to manifest. So without Shakti, without the divine feminine, Shiva remains asleep. Or you can say pure consciousness, not asleep, alert, in restful awareness, but no manifestation. So Shakti manifests as the divine feminine in our own body as sensations. Every sensation is a Shakti, pleasant or unpleasant. As images, the images we have in our imagination, that's Shakti. How do you create an image? It's a miracle, right? If I ask you right now, think of the Empire State Building, you get an image. There's no image in your brain. I say, think of a rainbow, you get an image. There's no image of the rainbow in the brain. There's no sound in the brain. Right now, what you're hearing is there's no sound in the brain. It's in consciousness. And so what is sensation? What is sound? What is light? What is color? What is shape? What is form? What is sensation, texture, taste, smell? This is the divine Shakti that makes us possible to experience this world. Otherwise, there's no world without the Shakti. Okay, so archetypes represent the highest aspirations of our collective soul. They are part of our spiritual inheritance. We read about them in Greek mythology, in the writings of Homer, Iliad and Odyssey. Every scene, every human experience is there. You know, sacred, profane, forbidden lust, betrayal, adultery, all kinds of things that you would think are not human, but they must be human because they have occurred amongst human beings. So, and then you see all kinds of other amazing things: healing and alchemy and transformation and unconditional love and empathy and compassion and joy and equanimity and peace and knowing your own immortality as pure consciousness. So, this is the entire range of experience we have when we get to this level, the archetypal self or the divine self. There's a shift in our cognitive and perceptual mechanisms. We don't think the same way, we don't look at the world the same way. The world becomes a bigger arena for you to play. And it's an arena. The field of consciousness is an arena. If you're only interested in personal stories, that's all you'll experience is gossip. If you're interested in lofty ideas, expansion starts. If you embrace archetypes, your world will be mythical and extraordinary, capable of miracles, literally. Okay. And if you transcend all that, then you don't have to do anything. Okay. If you transcend all that. So, what is a myth? A myth is a primordial story. It sparks the collective imagination. It sparks the collective memory. It has a resonant plot. It has a simple story. It has compelling characters. And, you know, these themes in mythology, they embody, as I said, the entire range of human experience: sacred, profane, divine, diabolical, sinner, saint, forbidden lust, unconditional love, healing, suffering, redemption, death, resurrection, redemption as well, but also death instinct, instinct, and wanderlust. But essentially, when we embrace this domain of experience, we are going to enjoy life as we've never enjoyed before, because it becomes a mystery, not to be solved, a mystery to be lived. It becomes wanderlust, it becomes adventure, it becomes everything that humans have aspired to or been afraid of, not knowing that that which they're afraid of is also their own shadow self. Okay, so the demons and the gods and the goddesses and the heroes and the villains, they're all part of the play. Okay, and while you're in the play, depending on your personality, you root for the hero, you root for, you know, the heroine, or sometimes you root for the villain because you like the heebie-jeebies. You like you like horror movies. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, but once you understand archetypal, then you understand that without archetypes, we are spiritually bankrupt. Okay? We have no mystery, we have no adventure, we have no joy, we have no fun, and we are never aware who we don't know. We become biological robots like algorithms being cured by people and circumstance into totally predictable outcomes. So these myths give meaning to life. They create a cultural mindset. Our culture is at any one point in time a result of the collective archetypal imagination and memory. So it doesn't matter. You're in a communist country, socialist, democracy, capitalism, this, that, the other. It's the archetypal cultural mindset that is giving meaning and purpose to society. Without that, no meaning and purpose in society. They create an idealist vision to aspire to. So they say this is the visionary response. Okay, you become, as a visionary, you know timelines of the future, of the past, of the possibilities, but you also embrace unpredictability. Myths and archetypes serve as a bridge from what is to what can be. They fuel collective anxieties, always, collective dreams, collective desires, collective imagination, and they are powerful in how they shape our individual reality. So now let's think of some archetypes that changed the world. I was thinking this morning, archetypes like people. Martin Luther King. I have Martin Luther King Jr. I have a dream. But you see, his dream is not personal. His dream is for a whole society, for a whole world. Nelson Mandela, same thing. Okay. Mahatma Gandhi. But then there are archetypes that you and I may not relate to, or you may relate to. The archetype of sex and beauty and the archetypes of these movie idols like Marilyn Monroe or whoever, Elizabeth Taylor, archetype, Princess Diana, archetype, sports heroes, archetypes. My son has a company called Religion of Sport. It's all about archetypes. And then these archetypes inspire other archetypes to go there. Okay, Princess Diana was an archetype, entertainment figures, political leaders, whether you like them or not, doesn't matter. They influence the world and they change the world. So, with that, also these days, many people are realizing that companies and businesses also represent archetypes. So, I'm hoping that Chopra Foundation, represents the archetype of healing, of alchemy, of transformation. Just as religion of sport, it represents another archetype, peak performance, whatever you want to call it. But you see, big businesses are archetypal stories. I was thinking of old businesses that I grew up with: Harley Davidson, Outlaw Bikers, Volkswagen, Bohemian Artists, Apple, cyberpunks. Apple is still here, and it's gone even more beyond that. Absolute vodka, remember? High living, Uh, and then you had Marlboro cigarettes. Never mind the guys on the respirator now, but for a while, very powerful archetype, influenced culture to a great extent, and also responsible for a lot of cancer. Marlboro, I hope you realize that, and I'm not afraid to say. Nike, African American urban heroes, MTV, hip and cool archetypes, right? Starbucks, yuppie intellectuals. Now we are going to have our own archetypal gathering here. Uh, and on and on. The Chopra Center, healing archetype, I hope. Healing, nurturing, transforming. So now many businesses are recognizing that if you embrace an archetype and you know what the archetype is and you know what you represent, then people will buy your product or culture because people want to be part of a mythical story. And this buying of a product or a culture is actually what anthropologists call ritual action. Okay, so every time society goes through big changes, it's because an archetypal story is unfolding, including suicide bombers, including people who serve the downtrodden with missionary zeal, marching for peace in times of war, sparking revolutions and movements like ecology, like feminism, like racial equality, social justice, peace. So you see how important archetypal story is. Archetypal icons do not mimic popular culture. They speak with a rebel's voice. They create charismatic visions of the world to make sense of conflicting times, confusing times, like we are now living in very confusing and conflicting times. And archetypes and icons target contradictions that fuel anxieties, desires, and imagination because they want to embrace a new ideal vision from here to there. And therefore, they are visionaries. They understand what we call non locality, they understand consciousness. So, this is very basic. And now, what we can do is, how are we doing for time? 30 minutes. I've been speaking for 30 minutes. Okay, so let me just then because today is the official launch of the Chopra Mind Body Zone, let's embrace today a few very important archetypes of the divine feminine. And then I'll stop, and then I'll be able to answer your questions. How's that? Okay. So, there are innumerable archetypes. I mean, if you look at the name Tara, for example, in Buddhism, green Tara, white Tara, but all the Dakini is the embodiment of compassion. So, what I'd like to do is, just as an exercise, why don't we close our eyes and put our attention in the third eye here, and in your mind's eye, right here in your third eye, have a vision of the highest masculine and feminine archetypes. So, in the Vedic tradition, that's just Shiva and Shakti. Shiva, and at some point you can look at pictures to see if you like those archetypes, or you can choose Greek archetypes. You can choose Hera as the powerful Shakti, and Zeus as the powerful male Shakti. But here it is, the masculine and the divine as infinite possibilities right here in your third eye. Now bring your awareness to your throat, which is the chakra of expression. And here we traditionally embrace, at least every day as a ritual, embrace the divine archetype of Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, of culture, of music, of art, of science, of technology. Without her, no culture. If you want to think in Greek terms, Athena, the goddess of wisdom. So let her reside right now in your throat chakra. And whatever symbols come to you in association, music and sitar and sounds and everything to do with human culture, which actually expresses itself as our collective behavior. And we invite Saraswati, or Athena, the goddess of wisdom. Now bring your awareness to your heart area, and now we embrace the goddess of abundance and love and joy. In our tradition, she is Lakshmi. Lakshmi, without whom you can't pay your mortgage. But you need abundance in all its forms, not just money. And that's what she represents. Allow her to reside in your heart right now. And now bring your awareness into your stomach, or where the ribs and the stomach meet, the solar plexus. And this is the goddess Durga. Durga is the goddess that destroys the veil of ignorance. She usually rides a tiger. She has all kinds of weapons in her hands, and everybody is scared of her, including Shiva. So today we embraced a few archetypes, and we asked them to incarnate through our physical body-mind, so we can manifest these powers, infinite possibilities with the divine masculine and the feminine, culture, art, music, science, wisdom through the divine feminine that represents wisdom, abundance, the goddess that brings abundance in all its forms, and Durga that cults the veil of ignorance to show us the light of being, the light of awareness. And now, before I close, I'm going to read 12 statements, and just repeat them in your mind, okay? And that'll finish today's meditation. So, with your eyes closed, and you don't need to focus anywhere. If anything, feel the sensations in your body or feel your heart, okay, if you want to. First intention. It's actually a sankalpa, reminding yourself of who you really are. Number one, at the core of my being, I'm a field of infinite possibilities. At the core of my being, I'm a field of infinite possibilities. Two, I'm a non local being and I can commune with any life instantly because I'm connected to the source of all things. Now, that's a long thing to remember. Just say, I can commune with all existence. That'll be simple. Number three, I'm in the habit of taking leaps of creativity. I take leaps of creativity. Number four, I'm comfortable with and embrace the wisdom of uncertainty. I embrace the wisdom of uncertainty. Number four, I co create with the divine. Every moment I co create with the divine. That was five. Number six, my spirit is a field of awareness that is entangled with all other spirits. My spirit is a field of awareness that is entangled with all other spirits. I can choose who to entangle with. Number seven, my inner dialogue reflects my self power attitude, which means I'm immune to criticism, I'm fearless, I'm beneath no one, and superior to no one. Just say to yourself, self power comes when I'm beyond criticism or flattery. Nine, love in action is the most important thing I can do for myself and for the world. Just remember that. Love without action, meaningless. Just pure sentimentality. Action without love, irrelevant. Love in action is power. Next, I take responsibility for my turbulent emotions. We all struggle with that. And one more, I pay attention to coincidences because coincidences and synchronicities are a manifestation of my own self. So please open your eyes and just want to conclude with one thing that archetypes symbolically, when I said goddess of abundance, then that archetype symbolically organizes abundance. Okay, archetype of wisdom symbolically organizes that intention. That's the value of archetypes. So, I think I've spoken enough and maybe too much. We can stop now. And are there questions? Okay. Do you have any questions? That this is the first time we're doing this live, so this would be good. Okay.
You can just ask, I can just repeat it. It's
Huh?
probably easier.
Okay. Just what's a give her microphone.
Guys hear me?
Yes.
Question is, when I meditate, I sometimes see color. And what does that mean?
Sometimes see color, symbolic representation of what those could mean to you. Okay? It could mean different things to different people. When we say green, some people with envy, some people say green abundance, fertility. So the colors are symbolic representations of emotions. Anything else? Any other questions here? Yes, right in the back. Just speak a little loudly.
Wonderful, thank you. Question, so the archetypes, they're all non-dual because they're all purposeful and they exist, right? There is no good or bad archetypes, they all just simply are, is my first question.
Okay, so there's no good, there's no bad.
No duality in the world of archetypes.
Yeah.
For the audience online.
Okay, so the question is, are archetypes expressions of the non-dual? Is there any moral judgment about good or bad? So now I like to think of the following phrase when that question comes up: nothing human is foreign to me. That allows me what people call not to judge. And moralistically, when I don't judge morally either the other or myself, that's also called forgiveness. And forgiveness is healing. That's a very practical thing. But archetypes embrace the totality, right? So without them, there would be no creation. If there were only creative archetypes, evolutionary archetypes, just imagine creation out of control, the universe, even physically, would exhaust its thermonuclear energy and burn itself up into the heat death of absolute zero, right? If there was only destructive archetypes, we wouldn't even start. There would be no Big Bang. But now you have creative, you have destructive, you have everything in between. You have Leela, the play. And why are we here? To play. God, the goddess, wants to play. That's why even the play is called Maya, the veil of illusion. So now it's up to you. You want to upgrade the illusion or you downgrade the illusion? You want to be a villain? Do you want to be a hero? Do you want to be a goddess? It's up to you, and it's also your stage of evolution. Don't take it seriously. And yet, it is the mechanics of manifestation. Whenever you are uncomfortable with what you're looking at, ask yourself, in which state of consciousness am I right now in which this looks real? Because it's not. It's a projection of your archetype and all your issues, your karma, your memory, your desires, all are this. But this being a projection, it's part of the movie, and it's not static. It's going to change. Whatever the projection is going to change. So, up, down, up, down. Choose your role. It's like, great Shakespeare play. At the end, they all come and they all bow, right? The hero, the villain, the sacred, the profane, all these characters, now they take off their masks and we clap for them all, not just for the hero.
You answered my second question, which is how you remain autonomous in a dualistic world sometimes when you're faced with that. And that was such a beautiful thing.
So very good question. What do you do when you're faced with troubling situations? You can fight them as an archetypal hero, but not taking yourself seriously. You're playing a part. You fight that, and a lot of people do that. They go to war. People kill themselves to do that. They become heroes. We give them medals. Or you cannot participate. You can just be the light of awareness that transforms. It's your choice, always. Yes.
That leads to my question. the spiritual journey for about 2 years now, being in an environment where people don't practice mindfulness. And if you're surrounded by people who don't know or aren't aware of mindfulness, how do you stay grounded?
Always stay grounded by asking yourself, who am I? Who am I? And you are infinite possibilities. You are Shiva, Shivoham, okay? And you are Shakti. You remind yourself, who am I? Second question, this is part of our meditation practice. What do I want now? And for me and my family. Third, what is my purpose? What is my dharma? And fourth, what am I grateful for? You ask those questions and then you do what comes to you naturally. But don't succumb to the temptation of validating your story and canceling other people's stories. It never will succeed, okay? Because everybody has a story and it's based on their experience, which goes back not only to their childhood, but what happened when they were in the womb, or possibly even before that. Okay, so right now, yeah, I feel the world is in pain. And, we are not respecting our environment. We polluted the environment. We don't even, we call it the environment. That itself is a non-dual world. The rivers and waters are our circulation. The earth is recycling as our body. The air is our breath. And the stars gave us the atoms circulating in our body. And yet we call it the world out there. It's not. It's you. That takes a shift. And you can't get that shift by talking to people who don't understand what you're talking about. Okay, so don't even go there. Don't validate your story and don't cancel anyone else's story.
Good question, Matthew.
Yes.
What action, backed by love, can we all do to promote goodness in the world?
Best question.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, not best. The latest question.
Okay.
Okay. So this is very important. What can we do to actually bring about this transformation on a daily practice? We have to be the change we want to see in the world. So practicing yoga. And don't underestimate the importance of yoga. Every posture is a seat of awareness. Every pranayama regulates your body. Every dharana is an intention. Every meditation takes you to the transcendent. Every transcendent experience, even for a moment, gives you a glimpse of reality. So yoga is the key. Okay. But when we say yoga, normally people think of coming to the studio and doing the yoga practice, which is actually very important because, in the regular routine of yoga practice, you bring awareness to almost every part of your body. Now, there are theories that we stimulate different branches of the vagus nerve, polyvagal theory. So practicing yoga, practicing breathing techniques, following the yamas and niyamas, going a little beyond that, understanding withdrawal of the senses, regulating our own body, and then dharana, dhyan, samadhi, and love in action, and not worry about who's doing what to whom. Why? Make your life joyful, hang out with joyful people, and make a difference. I only ask myself 3 questions, by the way, when I'm making a choice. Is it going to be fun? Number 2, am I hanging out with the right fun people? And number 3, is it going to alleviate suffering, even a little bit? If the answer is yes to all 3, do it. If the answer is no to even one of them, why bother?
I have a question. Thank you. And it's kind of related to everything you just said, but I think you've almost just answered my question. When you talk about entanglement, I'm in a profession that causes me to have to be around a lot of negative people. And I feel like I have this shield and I can keep it out, but every once in a while the shield breaks and I just don't know what to do. Do you believe that the energy of other people can affect you negatively? And if so, what's the best thing to do to make that not ever happen? Because it feels so bad when it does.
So, first of all, this is a common experience what you're having, especially with people who seek social justice, especially with people who have an ideal vision to aspire to, especially with what we call activists. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with activism. You're acting for an ideal scenario, right? There are two ways to deal with it. One is you get emotionally involved in not only your own issues you're having to deal with when these people are around you, but you're also getting entangled with their stories. Okay, when you get emotionally involved, this is karma. Karma, you take on karma, and then this is the body that is the projection of karma. And in the non-dual traditions, the physical body is called the karmic pain or pleasure body. There are only two things you experience, pain or pleasure, depending on your story. So when you get entangled as an activist with other people's stories, you're going to have karma, entanglement, and you're going to hurt yourself. The honest answer. On the other hand, if you come from love in action, no need to validate my story, no need to cancel anybody's story. I'm just following yoga. Raj Yoga is the practice that we have every day. Gyan Yoga, trying to understand the nature of reality, which we did today. Okay, that was Gyan Yoga, let's say. Bhakti Yoga, chanting, devotion, music, kirtan, but basically evoking the qualia feeling of love, so you feel connected. And Karma Yoga, love in action. Enough. So stop entangling yourself with people who want to burden you with their story. You can still help them, but if you want to be so entangled, walk away. I think we'll...
One more question.
Okay.
Any more questions, or are we good?
Yes, one more question. No, there's a question there.
I have a quick question. So, I recently just started my spiritual journey about 2 weeks ago in this beautiful, amazing space. And last year, I suffered serious trauma from medical conditions. So I've been doing all the work, trying to do all the work. And what I realized is that my physical body was in a war, as I say, explains myself with my spiritual body. So recently, I went to a wearable class, and my Reiki master asked me to go, and I went by myself, and it was an awful experience. The reason why was because I was in physical pain, like my ears were ringing so badly that I literally was like in the fetal position, like my ears closed. So my Reiki master told me that what I'm doing is all of my energy is coming up and getting stuck in my throat chakra. So do you have any pearls of wisdom on how that I can actually clear that?
Okay, so maybe everybody couldn't hear, so I'll repeat the question. This young lady started her spiritual journey about 2 years ago. So, by the way, when people ask what is spirituality, if you want a simple answer, self-awareness. That's it, okay? What is spirituality? Self-awareness. Self-awareness doesn't mean selfie awareness. Selfie is your ego awareness. Self-awareness means true self-awareness, which means what is everything that's happening in your life right now is part of your self-awareness. So when people start this journey, there is the release of karma, literally. We don't use those words in our society. We say release of stress. Okay, stress is karma. What is stress? It's the perception of threat, whether it's physical threat. Maybe you were hurt physically. Maybe you were abused physically. Maybe you were abused psychologically. Maybe you were verbally. Maybe you have a memory of some trauma that you don't remember, but it's all part of your physical pain body. And when you start a practice like this, there's the release of that. So first thing is, congratulations. All that discomfort was very necessary for your healing. Second, the Reiki master is right. The physical body work, because body and mind are one thing, can release those imprints. because those imprints are not only in your physical body, but they're also in your brain as neural networks of past experiences. So any words of advice, just take it easy, be patient, and whatever is happening is the right thing for you at the moment. Okay? Thank you. So here's the hymn again, and after that we'll close.
मनोबुद्ध्यहङ्कार चित्तानिनाहम् न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न च प्राणसंज्ञो न वै न वा सप्तधातु न वा पञ्चकोश न वाक्पाणिपादं न चोपस्थपायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मे द्वेषरागो न मे मदोर्नैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभाव न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्ष चिदानन्द